Welcome to Situation Today with Gulf Business. I'm very excited to introduce our guest today. Mr. Jobin Joejoe is the Managing Director of Sony Middle East and Africa, and he's just told me he also looks overseas Central Asia, so I'm really excited to learn more about what Sony's been doing. Sony has been a tagline that we're all very connected to over generations, whether we got our first Walkman, depending on how old you are, or a Discman, and products after that, even your PlayStations. So there's a deep connection to Sony that just goes beyond it being a gadget. And so I'm looking forward to having this discussion with Jobin today about Sony, not just the product lineup or their business in the Middle East, but also about the values that have made Sony a leader in its business, from the innovations that they have brought into the market, from the way they connect with every generation and content creators. So without further any delays, I'd like to introduce Jobin Joejoe to our viewers and listeners. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Just to start off and to kick off with, how would you describe Sony as a company and the impact that you've seen it have, across your customers and business?
So Sony has always been a creative entertainment company, trying to provide best audiovisual experiences to our consumers across the region. The customers have always been at the heart of everything that we do. So, we try and understand the customers' behavior, their needs, their preferences, and then we bring in technology and products, to kind of fulfill those needs. Mm-hmm. So everything at Sony starts with the customer and understanding their need.
How has Sony sort of, especially, you were telling me that your remit is 70 countries. So how is Sony sort of keeping track of all of the feedback that you get from your customers and sort of rolling them out across products? How long does this whole process take, if you could give us an insight into it?
So basically in the region, we operate through a hub and spoke model, mm-hmm. where we have our regional headquarters for the Middle East, Africa, as well as Central Asia here mm-hmm. in Dubai. And then we have, we cater to markets across the region through business partners or through key retailers with whom we work directly. Over and above this, we have, people stationed in multiple, we have service providers stationed in multiple countries who are, let's say, our eyes and ears on the ground mm-hmm. in terms of, receiving this feedback. Then we have a lot of database that is collected. We have, then we have our CMK programs where we analyze in terms of customer preferences and needs and kind of categorize them into very specific, let's say, sections or, and then, try and understand what would be the best kind of product that would fit into the particular segment of customers.
Okay.
So that's kind of an approach that we take. So for example, we look at trends that's happening in the market. Let's say, for example, today in the UAE with a lot of OTT, mm-hmm. Platforms, there is a lot of increase in terms of the consumption of digitized content. Mm-hmm. With this has come in a trend of large screen TV demand. Mm-hmm. So once we kind of look at this kind of a trend that's there with the agility of the go-to-market kind of model that we use, we are very flexible and fast in terms of adapting to new trends and new changes. Mm-hmm. So any kind of a trend that's seen this way, then, we work backwards in terms of how could we fulfill or what would best suit customers, that would satisfy their requirements. So that's kind of a model that we follow.
Across your products, the different segments, obviously it's, audiovisual and in terms of the consumer electronics. What are some of the key trends that you're seeing and that have, Sony has sort of rolled out? For instance, there's something really unique, the climate, the thermal device. I was there at the launch.
Rayon Pocket Pro.
Yes, and I tried it out and I was, it was quite mind-boggling to see that. And but tell me, if you could tell me a little bit about this.
So as we highlighted earlier, our region is very, very diverse. Mm-hmm. We are talking about 70 plus countries. So what we look at generally is, let's say for the Middle East region, let's say UAE or more in particular, Dubai is considered, let's say, as a showcase market. Mm-hmm. So it's more of you would see the trend first coming into Dubai and then rolling out to, let's say, other countries in the Middle East. Yeah. Similarly, when we look at Africa, let's say, I would say South Africa would be one country which could be a showcase market for at least the southern African continent. And similarly for, let's say, you have maybe a Nigeria on the west and maybe a Kenya in the east. So again, we have these reference markets from where we could see the trends that is being, that is catching up in the particular markets. And then we look at working towards that. Like an example that I just gave over here in terms of, large screen television,
Right.
the trend coming here. Africa is more about music. It's a region which is, everybody loves music in that region. So it's, again, we kind of tailor our offerings and solutions and products to, customers catering to in terms of what is the kind of, trend or what is the kind of requirement or need from the customer.
In terms of technology, again, we were talking, I was referring to an interview that I read that you had done with Gulf Business a couple of years back, and you gave an outlook where you said AI would sort of revolutionize technology, whether it came to consumer electronics. So fast forward to 2025, how are you seeing that play out in what Sony is doing, and where can we see it more, and how do you see it going forward from here?
For Sony, AI is not something new, and it has always been a part of, I would say, the DNA. I really do not know if you would get a chance to see it, but I would say there's an interview of one of the founders of Sony, I think back in the 1950s, where he was talking about AI, and he was talking about an era where you would have computers controlling cars and you would have driverless cars on the roads. So we are talking about, that kind of a generation. So most of our products today have AI capability, built into them. I think 2021 was first when we kind of announced, I think we were the first to announce AI-based processor in our TVs. So our Bravia Cognitive Processor XR, it actually goes beyond conventional AI, and it kind of replicates what the human eye can see and what the human ears can hear. Similarly, we have AI technology in our cameras, which kind of identifies subjects, be it people, be it animals, be it other moving objects, and then kind of automatically adjust settings within the camera to give the best possible output. Talking about our let's say noise cancelling headphones, again they have AI chips built into them to better understand the environment in which the customer is using the product and optimize settings to give the best sound experience. So it's today become an integral part of most of the products that Sony has been launching into the market with different usages. And when it comes to Sony, not just product innovation, but we also have, for example, recently developed our Sony Enterprise LLM, which is a secure internal AI platform which enables employees to kind of responsibly study generative AI and kind of improve the literacy of AI within the organization. So these are a lot of initiatives that Sony is now working on in terms of, it's seen as the future. So we're just gearing up so that everybody is empowered to make the best out of it.
Well, talking about that, and we were talking about innovation again. So there've been a couple of really great launches earlier this year as well. If you could just tell our viewers and listeners about it, and what can we expect? Well, if you can spill the beans or give us a peek into what we can expect in the second half of the year as well.
So as I said in the beginning, for us, everything starts with customers, and based on customers' needs, we keep launching products. So I can talk about what we have launched so far, but a lot of disclosure for future is a little difficult. So I think this year we started off with launching our Bravia lineup. So we kind of strengthened our Bravia lineup. We launched 3 new series, primarily focused on the mini LED, OLED, as well as some, an entry segment for customers. This, I would say, is again trying to, meet the demand for large screen television today. So we launched the Bravia 5 series, which is a mini LED series coming in multiple sizes, right up to a 98 inch.
Wow.
So to catering to the demand for large screen television. So today, it's like the tagline for TVs that Sony is using today, cinema is coming home. So we are trying to replicate a cinema environment in the living room of our customers. So that is something that we are focused on. Immediately after that, we had the launch of about 3 models of speakers under our Alt Power Sound Series brand. Again, catering to customers who, speakers catering to on-the-go music listeners, as well as, let's say, house party kind of big speakers. So that was the second launch of speakers. The most recent we had was our flagship 1000X Mark 6 headphones, which is, I would say, the most valued premium noise cancelling headphones today in the market, and it was instant hit at launch. So that was, I think, the next we had, and then we had the Rayon Pocket Pro, which is again something unique, understanding the needs of the customers here. It's a personal cooling and heating device which helps customers stay comfortable in even in this harsh summer months in our region. So this is what we have seen so far, but I would say it would not stop at this. We would have many more launches to come, but I think we'll have to wait for.
Personally, I'm very, very interested in knowing how the cooling and heating device is doing, and I believe you're sold out, and are other markets just as interested as the UAE?
We have had a selective launch for the product, so it's not available globally everywhere. So customers in this region are probably, I would say the lucky ones to have it this early. But otherwise, it's just launched in very few markets like Japan, Singapore. Now we have launched it in our region. Few countries in Europe, I think, have access to it yet, but a majority of the world is still yet to see it. Again, it's coming from a point that supplies are limited. So it's a completely new product and production is being scaled up. So what we received also, it's difficult to make a judgment based on the quantity because it just sold out. So we really do not know to what kind of potential it can go. But we strongly believe that it's an apt product for the region. I mean, looking at the temperature and the weather conditions here, and hopefully in that coming few months we should be able to scale up production and have enough of quantity to supply to
the rest of In terms of just getting back now, this is more business, but based on what you've told me, obviously it looks like it's a very positive outlook for the company. But if you could tell us a little bit about 2024, even if some of the key highlights of that, and for H1, if not H1 then Q1, that make you very happy and that it's going to be a great year for you guys.
For Sony, 2024, as well as I would say year to date in 2025, we have had strong growth. I think the biggest success factor that we have, I would say, is the portfolio that we hold. We are a very diversified company. Even within electronics, you will have very few brands which has a diversified portfolio like Sony. So, because I would say demand for electronics is very cyclical. So there was a period, let's say during COVID 2021, where we saw a peaking of demand for television because there was a stay-home demand. Everybody was at home. Everybody who had like a single television at home went to 2 and 3 because all family members are sitting at home. And that peaked the demand for televisions. But at the same time, there were other categories like, let's say, cameras or headphones where the demand had come down because of people sitting at home, no traveling, so noise cancellation headphones are not required. You don't go out taking pictures, so camera is not required. So it's very cyclical. So this, if you go to the next phase, I would say 23-24 is when we started seeing that, because there's a lot of demand that was pulled in for TVs. So markets across the globe for television started seeing a decline in demand because there's always a replacement cycle of 5 to 6 years. So when people have advanced purchase, that was due to happen. So a lot of companies, let's say, who are specifically into that particular category of business, they would struggle because they are getting into the negative cycle. But in our case, because of the diversified portfolio that we have, the moment, the COVID was over and then there was a burst of, I would say, revenge travel and everybody started traveling and we saw a spike that took place for, let's say, our cameras and our headphones. So 2024 was a very strong year, I would say. Major contributions coming in from one is our Alpha lineup of digital imaging products. Then for sure the headphones. Another category that contributed a lot was the gaming segment, where now we have got into, let's say, PC gaming as well. So PlayStation is one part of the gaming that Sony has. So we have, I think about 3 years back, we launched the InZone brand, which is again a brand purely into gaming accessories. So gaming monitors, gaming headsets. Very soon you'll have a bigger lineup of products coming in with the InZone, under the InZone brand as well. So that was another category that we saw good growth. As I said, so it was kind of the decline in the TV business kind of was offset by the growing category. So that is always a positive for Sony because of the diversification in the business that we have.
That's good to know. And you're right. I think diversification, whether it's a country that's looking to diversify into different sectors or companies that are looking to diversify into products, that's I think the way to go to balance. It could be anything, geopolitical tensions. It could be, hydrocarbons, being phased out. You mentioned the gaming segment, and I think that PlayStation is so synonymous as one of the best devices. I mean, for gamers. Where do you see the gaming sector sort of going with this, and how is Sony going to leverage that going forward?
Not the right person to talk too much about gaming because PlayStation is a different company altogether.
Right.
But what the direction that we are taking at this point in time is, so all these years, Sony's focus was completely, let's say, into console gaming, where PlayStation is a kind of, I would say, one of the biggest players, and in our region, maybe a monopoly player. But yeah, it's that was the focus to probably about 3 years back when we decided to enter the PC gaming segment.
Yeah.
So if you look at, I would say, I think statistics say that PC gaming is in reality bigger than console gaming. So we were catering only to the the console gaming part of the pie, but today we have entered into the space of PC gaming as well. So the InZone brand is a brand that is being developed because we see that this would be one segment that would continue to explode because the number of gamers that is getting on, because I mean, today esports is becoming very,
Yes, I
very
was gonna
popular, and
actually come
the
to-
kind of money that is being poured into esports, people can take it up as a profession. The kind of money that people make today, you become a good esports player, and the kind of money, the sky is the limit. So kind of, so last year Sony also partnered with the EWC, and we are kind of the title sponsors for the EWC World Cup that happened in Saudi. I think this year again it would probably kick off next month, and Sony is again a partner for the esports World Cup that's happening in Saudi. So these are initiatives that that is not only in this region but globally. Esports is something that is becoming very big. So in terms of catching up onto that trend is where Sony has decided into, okay, we will continue with the console gaming part, but we would also look at how to cater to customers in the PC gaming segment, because we have the technology with us already. So it's just a matter of
sort of
how does the customer want to use the product. So
well, coming into this, obviously, customer experience and customer making your having the pulse of what your customer wants is important. You talked about whether it's gaming or music or a cross of experiences. Where do you see the thing about the connection, about candor, the values that the company holds, and how does this play into what you're sort of offering the market?
If I go back, Sony's purpose itself is to fill the world with emotions through the power of creativity and technology. To achieve this purpose, we have made tremendous strides in delivering the power of 3Rs, which is reality, remote, and real time. And we continue to get closer to our customers who are both creators as well as users. So as a company, Sony, strives to deliver kando to our customers. Kando is a Japanese word which translates to stimulate an emotional response and make people go wow. So that has been kind of at the heart of Sony in everything that we have been doing. So it's kando first, for the customer. So that's something that we have been looking at. This is put into use in our region as well, and we continue to strive to increase our customer base as well as Sony fans in the region, and deliver the latest technology and products to them, to give them the best experience possible.
Well, that's good to hear as well. And coming back to even your own vision for the company, and as you've grown with the company as well, where do you see taking Sony next? And I know Sony is something that we look to as a leader in its field. What's next for Sony?
So if I talk about particularly this region, so as I said, it's 70 plus countries. So we have our strategies also evolve around consumers. As I said, we have benchmark markets that we look at in different parts of the region, but it's more customer focused and what customers require in the region. Practically it's impossible to have a complete coverage of this region, and we are still in the process of, there are still markets in the region where we are not present. So one part of our strategy is expansion of our business into countries where our footprint is still minimal. So again, the strategy would vary from market to market. So if you look at matured markets, let's say like UAE or other GCC countries where the markets are matured, it's more about holding on to your market share or improving your market share. Whereas in markets which are which we are entering new, it's more in terms of it would be scenarios where you actually create a market. So if you go into countries in Africa, we do a lot of demand creation activities. That's one of our core strengths in terms of premium demand creation activities that we do a lot of workshops like our alpha festivals, our creator conventions or even our Sony Cinetos, where we actually kind of and other workshops where we actually work with creators and users to create demand for products in the market. So the strategy would vary from country to country, region, depending on, I would say, at what stage of the market is at within the country at that point in time.
You're saying that for in Africa, you would use influencers as well.
Yes.
Yes, because okay. And would that also be a lot in the UAE and other areas of GCC? Do you think that working as well?
That is working as well. So that is one of the prime activities that we do cater to. But again, as I said, the product would be different. If I'm focusing on large screen TVs here in the Middle East, it would be more of, let's say, up to a 55, 65 inch TV in Africa. In Africa, the market for audio is much bigger than television. That does not happen in most part of the world. I think it's only Africa and Latin America where you would find the audio market to be bigger than the television market. So we do use influencers, but we use it for different products. So there it would be more of usage for sound products or, let's say, camera products. But here it would be more of, let's say, for television. And in the Middle East, I think it's for almost all the products, but otherwise in markets it's very, very specific.
You mentioned Central Asia. What have been some of the key opportunities there for Central?
So Central Asia is a region that we took over quite recently, just about a couple of years back when the Russia-Ukraine kind of the war crisis, situation, the crisis arise. So previously Central Asia used to report into our Sony Russia office. So we have the Sony MEA office, but once we decided to wind off the operations there, once the sanctions came into play, then all countries in the Central Asia region except Belarus and Russia, which are sanctioned, was taken over by our region. So again, it's a diverse region. So we are still it's new to us. We're still getting a hold of it. But again, they have very, within Central Asia itself, you have markets like Azerbaijan, you have markets like Georgia or Kazakhstan, which are quite developed. But on the other side, you have markets like a Turkmenistan or an Uzbekistan or a Kyrgyzstan, which is still, in the developing phase of business. So interesting business, I would say something in between Middle East and an Africa, not as developed as the Middle East and not as developing as Africa, but strong markets.
Is it again, you see music doing very well there, cameras and...
In terms of, again, they are quite diverse, unlike, let's say, the Middle East, because it's like Georgia is a very different country from, let's say, Kazakhstan. But television across the board is a very strong category when it comes to the Central Asian markets. When we talk about digital cameras and content creation, a place like Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan is very, very strong because they are very, the culture, in terms of culture, they are very unique and very strong. So you have photography and videography is a key in, those markets. Sound is not a very strong category when it comes to Central Asia.
Okay.
So the love of music is not much in Central Asia.
Hopefully it evolves, and that's always good for business.
With the Gen Zs coming in and with a lot of trends changing, it's just a matter of time that it just replicates down to different markets at different times.
Well, on a personal note, how do you manage 70 countries? I'm sure you're always on the plane. Tell us a little bit about how you manage your schedule.
I think I'm on the plane more than on the ground, but it's a lot of countries to manage. But very frankly, I have a very strong team that's put in place. So I believe in kind of more of, let's say, a people leader than that's a kind of a philosophy that I follow. So we have got teams set in place. So managing, so we have a division which takes care of the Middle East. We have a division which takes care of Africa. We have a division which takes care of Central Asia. And fortunately for us, Sony is a company that employees rarely want to leave. So most of our employees would be like me, 20 plus years, very experienced with the region. So everybody has the pulse of the region in their hands. So things become much, much easier. For me today, travel is more in terms of building and keeping relationships with our partners across the region. Understanding customers. So it's more of my travel would be when we have events being organized in, so it's more of when we have demand creation events being organized across markets, and I would, generally try and be a part of it to understand, what would be the trends and what would be the needs of customers at that point in time. Yeah, so it's a kind of a balance, but 50% of my time is in Dubai and maybe a little more than that outside Dubai. So
what have been some of the key values for you that you think have been your North Star through your journey?
For me, it starts with my ethics and integrity to the company that has been there, and that is something that I look forward to in every employee of the company. That is something that could be the only kind of I would say one point where that could actually upset me in the company. So so that has been you know I think I would say something that I looked up throughout my working career.
Any piece of advice that you would give, potential leaders uh, who are working on their path to becoming somebody like you?
I think most important would be again to understand the pulse of the customer, be in touch with your market, and then work out your strategies based on what the customer needs. Other than going the other way around, that you have a product and you need to push it to the customer, I think the focus should always be on understanding the pulse of the customer, understanding what they would appreciate or what would satisfy their need, and then evolving your strategy around you know fulfilling the needs of the customer.
Just on a parting note, if you were to see Sony 10 years from now, even 5 for that matter, how do you see that company? How do you see the company? How, if you would personalize it, because it's evolved with generations. It's been relevant. I think relevance is a very important
True.
thing when it comes to Sony. Where do you see that 10 years from now? How do you sort of picture it and visualize it?
Sony has always been a company, as I mentioned, looking at customers and their needs, and the portfolio has been diversified. I mean, I really do not know how many people would know that Sony runs a bank or Sony runs an insurance company.
There you
So
go.
it's such a diversified portfolio, right from music to pictures to PlayStation. I know we are into a lot of businesses today. Yeah, but at the core, we have our electronics business. But going forward to the future, I think it's a lot more to do with, let's say, IPs in terms of a lot in terms of new businesses focused on artificial intelligence. It's primarily, I would say, Sony is ready to, kind of run the tide with the new trends that's coming into the market. So the strength is we don't hesitate to take risks on new businesses and trends that we are looking at in that we see in the market. So a lot of focus now is coming into, let's say, the sports business. We have companies in the sports business like Hawkeye or Beyond Sports. We have a lot of tie-ups that now we have with the World Athletic Association, the World Aquatic Association, the NFL, the NBA. So there is a lot of thought that is going in terms of the sports business part of it. We have also got into ventures of, let's say, the automobile industry today. So Sony has announced a partnership with Honda, and we have set up a new company again. But it is again to leverage and showcase the technology that Sony has, and then I would say more in terms of becoming a competitor within the automobile space. So it's more of kind of showcasing, let's say, our technology for entertainment. Be it the strength of our camera sensors for, let's say, autonomous driving, or the kind of audiovisual experiences that can be provided in the car. So that is, I think, the focus that we have. So if you ask me 5 years from now, I would say we would be into a lot of businesses because we are seriously looking at diversifying the portfolio of the business that we are in.
So staying relevant, staying innovative, and diversifying is pretty much where you see the company going.
True.
One trend, and we'll close with that you think people should be looking out for, and you think will make a big difference. Because like I said, when I read your interview and you talked about AI 3 years back, I was smiling and saying, I'm going to have this conversation with you today. But similarly, if there's one thing that you could tell.
I think for some time it would remain at artificial intelligence. It would just be the kind of use cases, or how innovative people can be in terms of utilizing the strength of AI. So I think for some time that would be a trend that would stick into the market. So I would say the next at least 5-10 years, you would see a lot of development that happens into AI, and a lot of use cases, new use cases that would come up in terms of how AI would be used.
Well, thank you so much for all your insights today, Jobin. It's been wonderful chatting to you, and like I told you before, I love Sony. It's been such an important
Thank
part
you.
of growing up for me as well. All the products, but I look forward to hearing more about the new launches, in the months ahead, and diversification. We keep our eye on that.
Sure.
But thank you again.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much to our viewers and listeners for joining us today on Situation Today with Gulf Business. But if you want to know more, come to gulfbusiness.com or read our magazine. Thank you so much. Have a good day.